2025 is almost over, and it's time to stop pretending everything is fine. If you work in design, writing, product, research, or in agencies, you've felt it. Fewer jobs, lower rates, shrinking teams. And an industry telling you AI is here to free you while quietly replacing you. In AI Trap, episode 48, we break down the biggest myths we've been sold. AI will free creatives to do more meaningful work. AI will create more jobs than it destroys. AI will make us smarter and more creative. Listen, some of these are partially true, but that's what makes them dangerous. We're going to look at real data, real job market signals, and what's already happening inside agencies and tech companies. In this episode, we talk about why creativity is being commoditized, why value is collapsing for most creatives, and the line too many people are crossing, outsourcing their thinking instead of outsourcing their work. This episode isn't about panic, it's about clarity. Because some people will thrive in this shift, and most won't unless they adapt fast and intentionally. So let's get into it. But before we start, we need to know what topics you want to hear about in 2026. We want to know how to help you improve your career prospects. Please take 3 minutes and fill out our survey. You'll find the link in the episode description and at designof.ai.
So 2025 is almost over, and we thought it'd be a great time to catch up on everything we've learned thus far this year. And most notably, we've been getting a lot of comments, a lot of questions, and a lot of insights from particularly our guests about what the hell is going on in the job market, what's happening to designers, creatives, how is the AI challenging the job market, how is it changing the way that we use tools, our cognitive function.
So we're going to talk about some of the myths that I think especially industry has been trying to tell us about the benefits of AI. And let's look at some of the actual data and the uncomfortable truths behind that.
We're going to tackle some of the major myths that exist today. They're things that have been propagated by the AI hype men. And again, we want to dispel some of these. Some part of them is true and some part of them isn't. But let's start with the basics here. AI will free designers to do more creative strategic work. AI will create more jobs than it destroys. AI will make us more creative and smarter. Everyone can just retrain into AI, and AI is just a neutral tool with nothing to fear. Some of these are true, some of them are not. There's always veiled truths in everything. We're not trying to be detractors here. We just want to help you, all of you who are scared, and all of you who are questioning how to adapt yourself to this market. Because as we've heard from many of our guests again, some people can succeed in this market and others will be living in angst and fear.
I think it's also really important for us as researchers and strategists to look at how can we be using our platform in this conversation to support the people in industry right now in how to move forward going into the upcoming year. I want to talk a little bit about what is actually happening, right? UX openings, job roles are down by greater than 70% since 2022. We're hearing from freelancers in AI exposed jobs that they're earning less with less work coming in. And we're all seeing it, right? Ad agencies are shutting down. The ones that are staying open are cutting thousands of roles while simultaneously rolling out new AI tools. And writers, translators, designers are already losing work directly to Gen AI.
Okay, let's go into myth number one. AI will free designers to do more creative work. This has been ongoing since day one, and the truth is bipolar. We've had many designers on this show tell us firsthand that they're able to elevate their work like they've never been able to do, that they're able to tackle issues and use this as a new material, and it's revolutionary. We've heard from Sierra Vienna, who is the chief design officer at MetaLab, who spoke at length about how we need to have a new relationship with AI. And this is a moment of transformational change for all product and all designers. This is such a powerful, beautiful idea. But let's look at some of the data backing that.
The UN Center for Trade and Development actually came out saying that generative AI has replaced human creatives in significant numbers in industries ranging from graphic design, illustration, to game design. This is really important because this is the most direct global policy level acknowledgement that AI is already replacing creative workers, not just augmenting them. We're also seeing things like there was a survey that came out of the UK in 2024 where 26% of illustrators were saying they've already lost work due to generative AI, and 37% had their income from the same work decreased because of AI, because the perceived value of the work is decreasing. According to a survey of freelance designers in 99 Designs, they found that 61% of them said that AI has affected their income in 2024, which is up from 45% in 2023, which is a pretty massive one-year jump, where we're seeing not only is there less work coming to these designers, but the value that they're able to earn from that same work is also decreasing, which is very concerning.
So the evidence at large is very obvious and very clear. Creativity is being commoditized. And as a result of it, the value of what creatives do is getting driven to zero. We discussed this in our most recent episode with Dr. Maya Ackerman, and it's one of the risks of giving more control to AI and Gen AI in particular. They're immensely creative and powerful machines, but when they're capable of compiling the work of thousands and millions of before them, it leads to a world where effectively the idea of creation has been so commoditized that we need thinking and novel thinking to move up a layer or two or three. Now, this goes into the argument of people like Tehun, who also was a guest several months ago, and creativity is expanding, but creativity is expanding into new and novel places. For him and others, it's how can we go into multimodal? How can we remove the abstraction layer that contained designers from interacting with machine language? How can we use vibe coding and vibe design and other forms of creativity and MCP and others to connect the dots and build things that before never seemed possible? Now, the dilemma in all this is, as the evidence is showing, is we need less designers. The ones who do remain in those tasks and those types of roles and getting that type of work are going to see their minds get blown, honestly, by what is possible. But nonetheless, for the other 95% of designers, this is a huge risk and liability.
Most AI projects fail. They fail because they're not built to deliver the value and interactions that customers actually find useful. PH1 Research specializes in reimagining your CX with AI. PH1 pinpoints and prioritizes what your customers want. They prototype solutions and audit your AI products to ensure they're working properly before you ship. We've worked with companies across the board, including Microsoft, Spotify, and many small startups. Find us at ph1.ca or contact our host, RP Drag Figueredo, directly with any questions.
Let's look at myth number 2. AI will create more creative jobs than it destroys. So here we're looking at the structure of the job market and what that looks like. Even if we just look strictly at ad agency layoffs and creatives, between August and December 2024, the US ad industry lost 4,600 roles, and the UK ad market job openings fell by 7.5%.
And this was before all the layoffs that happened in the last 2 weeks.
Earlier this year, we saw the merger between Omnicom and IPG, which are two of the largest advertising agency holding companies. And since then, they've announced 4,000 layoffs. We're also seeing the closing of some pretty major global advertising agencies. One of the biggest challenges is at the same time, we're seeing major advertising holding companies like WPP announcing huge shifts into the AI space and building out tools that are effectively replacing a lot of the creatives and the analysts that would otherwise be working there.
We're talking about 10,000 of the most uniquely equipped creatives have been cut in the last year. That's a pretty significant thing. It is basically canary in the coal mine that the creative valuation model is broken. Now, agencies have been notorious for a very antiquated, non-value driven model, but nonetheless, it's very damning. These businesses are consolidating the same way that antiquated creative content industries have been for the past. Like we just saw Warner Brothers get acquired for peanuts compared to what it would have been not long ago. This might be a Yahoo moment in terms of creativity basically imploding in many respects.
Yeah, Goldman Sachs actually came out with a report recently saying that, or estimating that up to 300 million full-time jobs worldwide could be exposed to automation by generative AI, which is mind-boggling. Why this is important, though, is even though we were hoping for and expecting there to be new job creation, it seems like the jobs that are being created are unevenly distributed. So, for many people within the creative space or in language roles, AI is substituting or devaluing the work that's happening, not complementing.
What we're seeing as a result of all these layoffs and the consolidation in this space is that AI is equipping creatives with new tools and new capabilities that before seemed unthinkable. The idea that a UX writer can now move into design and development with some of these tools is mind blowing. As a result, these antiquated super clusters of creatives are breaking up, and it's leading to the creation of all these solopreneur businesses or boutique agencies. So we might see a boom in specialty services and service providers, which is amazing, particularly if you're one of those people who's ahead of the curve and an AI technologist. Again, in AI, you are either going to boom or bust. And it means that if you're one of the early adopters in how to consolidate and integrate these tools, learn how to use MCP, learn how to use design systems, connect it through a variety of systems, you're going to be ahead of the curve and you're going to continue getting work. But unfortunately, if you're an illustrator, the bottom's just been cut out from under you, and there's a huge problem at play. And if we look at strategists like myself, there's a lot of questions of what the role of strategy is in a world where strategy had already become a fancy form of project management. Why do we need novel thinking when these systems can do it for us? Brittany and I, we always test out these systems. What we realize is these systems, when we have them work against each other or together, actually can accomplish an unbelievable amount of thinking, processing, creative thought, critique. All these things are amazing. But the other thing that happens, and this happened this morning, is sometimes these systems break down not because of what they're incapable of doing, but because the human operators, in this case us, are venturing into territory that we don't totally understand. And when we do that, these systems ingratiate themselves to us and enable us in poor and negative ways to continue down workflows that perhaps aren't the best for us.
I do think that one of the cool things that's coming out of this, though, is while the organizations themselves are devaluing the human labor and the creativity, if we are utilizing these tools in a way that allows us to think and play and explore out loud, it's going to be easier than ever to find other people who are kindred spirits in the type of work that you do and be able to build out these niche micro agencies and consultancies.
100%. Like we're actually going into a world where adaptive interfaces are going to be real, where generative products are possible, where services can replicate and personalize themselves around us. We've been sold the dream of that for a long time. And usually it was just a bunch of bullshit automation systems. We're actually getting in a place where if you're one of the builders of these systems or one of the early adopters of these systems, you can bring so much value to an organization that you never could have imagined before. But ultimately, that leaves many people outside in the cold if you're watching this and unsure what to do about it. And this is one of the big risks about being a creative or a product team today. So let's move on to the next myth here. AI makes us more creative and smarter. So what does the evidence say about this, Brett?
Yeah, so it's a wide range, right? We're finding that people using AI assistants, their stories, for example, writers are rated more creative, better written, especially if someone is a less experienced writer. So in that space, we're definitely seeing an ability to level up your skill when you do already have that foundation. But we're also seeing reduced diversity of ideas and perhaps people who don't have that foundation or that curiosity on how to push things further, where they're moving more into the sort of generic ideas space. There was a study that looked at multiple different archive studies that brainstorming tasks actually showed high reliance on AI. They did not reliably increase individual idea quality. They tended to narrow the range of concepts explored, especially when using AI early on in that concepting and brainstorming. What we're finding is that AI is really helpful in making us more creative and smarter if you've already done the foundation to broaden your brainstorming and your creativity at the start, and you're using it to refine or to validate or to push things further. But if you're using it at the beginning, it really is limiting what we're able to accomplish because you're starting with a foundation that's already very generic.
Any of us who've worked with image generation apps know this deeply. For one, I use Ideogram quite a bit. I use Nano Banano, and it takes me 10 iterations, 10 prompts before I actually get to something I would even consider not trash. And it's not that our prompting is poor, it's that these systems are not designed for success. They're designed to give you the most average, palatable results possible. My girls love them. They love seeing pictures of themselves on unicorns. But if you want to have production client ready work, a lot of these systems, including like a Figma Make or any of the other tools, it could be lovable. The outputs are rarely ready to go, and it requires you thinking like a developer quite often to figure out how to piece these things together and know what inputs are necessary and what rules and guidelines and prioritization schema are necessary to actually get them to a place where they're contextually accurate and representing what the end goal needs to be.
There was actually a recent study that came out this year by the MIT Media Lab study on AI use and cognitive engagement, which actually found that ChatGPT users were exhibiting quite low brain engagement, particularly areas linked to attention, planning, memory, and critical thinking, especially when they were using ChatGPT or generative AI early on in their exploration and thinking. And so, again, I think it's really important that we don't discount these tools, but we look at where in the process, in the creative process, gives us a cognitive benefit and boost and pushes us to be smarter, to be more creative, rather than outsourcing our thinking. It really harkens back to Dr. Maya Ackerman's conversation that we had recently, where she was talking about using AI as a humble machine rather than an oracle. And I think it's really important to reiterate that because we want to use these tools in a way that make us smarter and more creative for the long term and push our thinking more broadly, as opposed to just using it as the end all and be all of creative thinking.
So let's go into specific examples here. The risk is outsourcing our thinking rather than outsourcing our work. If we're having AI spin out 20 variants of a piece of content, localizing something, giving us a range of alternative perspectives, or taking us from a cycle where typically we might have one review per week to having 10 reviews per day, that is transformative. Remember that us as creatives, as builders, as thinkers, we need as much reflection and refraction as possible. We need things that shift and are provocations to how we look at the world around us. We do not want to outsource what we do to them. And this is a very critical thing because, again, if we look at the AI hype, it has oversold what these tools can do. 8 months ago, I was a firm believer that we could accomplish so much with this. But after being deep in the trenches with it, I firmly believe that if you break up products into specific small quantas and string them together, then you'll have much more success than actually trying to build a monolithic output or deliverable. I've had so many times with these tools where I felt like I was using Photoshop 2.0 and I felt like there was no undo. So I had to keep downloading the most recent deliverable because at any point, these tools can just rip it apart. This morning, I was listening to a news thing where a developer actually had all his access to all Google platforms revoked, all his files destroyed because somehow his account had an injection of child pornography that was fueled through the training data set of Google Gemini. How crazy is that? He lost access to everything because of a thing that was out of his control. This could happen to any of us. And in truth, it's happened to me, not as severe as this, but you put in the wrong prompt, it'll delete everything. I read one last week where it deleted an entire file server because of a prompt. These tools have no awareness of what we need or want. They're constantly looking for reinforcement and direction as if they're a baby. So would you give a baby the keys to your car? No, we need to think of it in such a way. They're great for giving reflections on specific perspectives and guiding us through challenging and boring workflows, but we need to be cautious and careful and very focused in governing and guiding the work being done.
what it comes down to, AI can make your work look really good. It can make it super fast, but that does not mean that it is going to be better quality. It does not mean it's making you better in the long run. So be particular about how you use it. And it can make you smarter and more creative, but there's a lot of watch outs there.
There's tons of reports saying there's going to be a ton of automation happening. We know knowledge workers are going to get cut. We know that a lot of the work that exists today will simply not exist. And anyone who's used these tools in any meaningful way can immediately see that. So obviously, we need to watch ourselves. There is also the risk of AI forcing us into roles that we're not comfortable with. This is a real risk where we start applying for roles that aren't even ones we're eligible for, ones that don't align to us. This is a time of transition. This is a time when we need to expand what we understand, what we know, and really prepare for the likelihood that we will get laid off. And that's okay. But to any of the junior people, this means a drying up of opportunities, a lack of mentorship, an inability to grow. For senior people, it is the expectation that your value is gone, it's diminished. And we're seeing this particularly in the creative fields where we're assuming that a mid-level person equipped with an AI or an automation flow will be as good as a senior person. Productivity-wise, might be the case, but it's something that we all need to be careful of. And we need to acknowledge our role in all this and the role of our employers. And this brings us to the next point, which is what is the uncomfortable reality and what's the path forward for all of this? It starts by believing that tech, that industry that in the 2000s and 2010s was untouchable and the ideal summit for where we should be working may not be the right place anymore. Adland has experienced that for 15 years, and that problem's coming to tech. All our jobs have been commoditized in many ways, and we need to adapt and move beyond being copy and pasters. And I'm saying this with the most humble, honest, want you to understand where we go from here. It's that we need to move from being doers to thinkers.
I also want to put a call out to people who do feel secure, or even if you feel unsecure in the place that you are. We're at a precipice where we can allow our own fear to isolate us and to push you to the edges. And especially for younger people who don't have those apprenticeship opportunities or those mentors the way that we used to, I think it's going to be really important that the senior people in industry open themselves up to being mentors and to supporting the younger people in the industry trying to get in, because that's where the real change is going to happen. I think the thing that will be magical and where that flip will happen is when we stop looking at AI as being an automation tool or a way to get things done faster, and instead look at how can we completely flip what we believe this industry is on its head and completely reimagine the system within which we are. And I think that the more that we collaborate with others and the more that we invite those junior people in who are not jaded and biased, the more that we're able to build something that is unique and different and will provide a value that a person just using an AI tool, the way that we're being trained to right now, won't be able to. So I think there's a real opportunity if we create community around it.
The other side of this is technology is not well equipped for a lot of roles and a lot of industries. There's still a ton of value that can be delivered if you look beyond SaaS, if you look beyond the typical platforms and work that had traditionally been the domain of tech. Brittany's very passionate about women's health. This is an area that now, because of these tools and solutions, more work can be accomplished, deeper work can be accomplished, and greater thinking can be brought to the table. The same case exists with anything in the public sector, where these industries are scared, they're intimidated, but they're also motivated. And if you can bring that fresh thinking into the room, it can be truly transformative. The same thing goes with anything regarding, climate, infrastructure, community development. These are all areas that have a net positive input to our communities, and you could be the central keystone to that.
I think it's important to state in this case where these are areas that I think are really primed for a valuable AI input because The data access can allow us to do so much more, but the risk tolerance means that you can't just go in and automate everything. And so by coming into these areas that have a great data opportunity and high risk, it allows us to be more strategic, more creative in how we then platform that data.
Now, the other way to move ahead in this is to start looking at yourself as a business. It's unfortunate, but the job security of technology is something that's becoming antiquated. What we saw on the assembly line of manufacturing jobs and automotive jobs is starting to happen here. But if we look at ourselves as a company, we need to start imagining what are our unique selling propositions? What are our differentiators? What is the thing that we can do at a higher level of quality and or productivity than someone else? Where are the industries where we can contribute the most and have the most benefit? Where is my portfolio the strongest? What does the work that I've done demonstrate that others couldn't? So while technology might be driving the disruption, part of the challenge to us as individual businesses is how to reinforce us as a product. And I know that's not a very humanistic or human-centered way to look at it, but nonetheless, this is a very challenging job market right now. And the more that we can enhance our strengths, focus our North Stars, and challenge ourselves to go into areas that might be the most impactful for us, we might put ourselves on a path to success that we've not felt for a very long time.
I think it's important also to bring back, so there was a myth that kind of dropped off, but it was this idea that you can just retrain into AI. And I want to touch on that for a second because there's this whole idea that, okay, well, you can just train in AI. You can learn about AI and then you'll immediately be more valuable, more hireable, all of these things. I saw this post on LinkedIn recently, and I can't recall who it was, but it was talking about how if you ask most CEOs what they're looking for, how can someone become more lucrative in this job market? What are the skills that they want? And they'll say, oh, here's a bunch of AI training courses. But when you actually have a conversation with them, you realize that the skills that are most valuable are critical thinking, their philosophy, their psychology, linguistics. Like these are things that you're not going to just be able to learn in an AI course. And so the other thing is not everybody is well equipped to just learn AI and all of a sudden become a machine learning expert. There are skills and knowledge that you have that are incredibly fundamentally and foundationally important to better AI experiences or better creative experiences that you can tap into as well. And it's looking at what are those foundational things, those soft skills that are actually really valuable that you can also leverage or elevate as you look for different ways to provide value into the system.
There's an endless depth of where we can go with how to support you, but ultimately you need to figure out what your North Star is. And one of the uncomfortable truths right now is that tech may not be the right place, that AI may not be the right partner for you. And as much as this industry has been a beacon of innovation for so many of us, there might be more value in returning to roots that actually empower and challenge us. And it might be time for us to feel a little uncomfortable and challenge ourselves to start new businesses or go and find some of the best coworkers we've ever had and build something with them. Build a consultancy, build a product, build a service, build something fun that actually contributes back to society. This is an era of experimentation, and what AI is today will evolve significantly over the next 2 or 3 years. The AI trap that we're in right now is to believe that this is the ultimate. It isn't. ChatGPT is still terrible at a lot of things. Claude is constantly lying. Gemini has too many restrictions. All the image generation tools are pretty poor at best. So we need to be honest and humble in this moment, and we need to take it as a time for learning, growing, and really reintegrating into communities of practice because doing it alone will only harm us and harm everyone else around us. We need to find a way to grow the people below us and elevate the people above us. That's our role right now. This is a symbiotic environment where the technology is a disruptor, but it's more of a virus right now. It isn't something that's going to stay in its current form. It's going to evolve. We're going to have better tools, better solutions, better education, but we're not at that point yet.
And please, please, please lift the people up around you. We are better together. We're more creative, more expansive. So build out loud, build out in the open and bring other people up with you, because we can only create the world, the version of AI that we want, if we are doing it purposefully and with each other.
And if at any point you have questions, want to bounce anything, just add comments, send us an email. We're happy to do it. If many of you want to do it, we can connect you in a room. We can all have conversations about it. There's an evolution that all of us are going through. And some of us need AI, some of us don't. Some of us just need to reconcile the feelings of hurt and fear. And some of us want to challenge the authorities above us. That's cool. We're happy to help with that. But please engage.